Howdy, everybody. Welcome to our little show here. It's Friday afternoon. Obviously, I'm here with Dr. Ed Milewski, who will be operating with me, assisting me in the procedure.
Yeah. And I'm here with Dr. James West.
And we're here to talk about cannabis and the cannabis industry and all the investment opportunities that might be present out there, the technical analysis that will help you sleep better at night, and the exact and precise concoctions of CBD, THC, XTC, and DMT that will give you a more peaceful existence. So, to say we have a loaded show today is a bit of an understatement. Would you say, Doctor?
Doctor, I would say you're correct.
Well, Doctor, that leads me to the next question. Did you know that we have some news today?
I believe that we do.
Okay, well, we'll come back to the news in a second, but wouldn't you like to know what's happening today on this really big show?
What?
Doctor, I have the following news to share with you. Actually, this is hilarious. It says, throw up. Suzanne Garcia will be here to read the news. Vicente Fox, former president of the Republic of Mexico, is here to opine on the future of Khiron Life Sciences. Doug Cooper is going to be here for the first time. He is the cannabis analyst and the head of research for Beacon Securities. David Anderson, who is the CEO of Avidian Gold, is going to be here to tell us about his gold projects in Alaska and Nevada. Dr. James and Dr. Ed, Dr. Jimmy and Dr. Ed are going to do some chart analysis. And then, of course, one of our favorites, Clint Sharples, is going to be here from Heritage Cannabis Holdings Corp to give us an update on what's happening in all things Heritage Cannabis. Ed, how are you? It's been a while. I haven't seen you all week.
It's been a while.
How are you adjusting to this new once-a-week format
you know
that
what?
we got?
It takes a lot less time.
What I'd like to know is, what are you doing every day at 3 o'clock now that you're not doing the show? Waiting for Friday?
Choking my chicken?
Choking the chicken?
No.
Spanking the monkey? Boy, oh boy.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, no. We're trying to keep the whole intellectual level at an all-time high.
That's going to be difficult.
That's going to be hard. So the cannabis sector, basically, crap beat out of it first 3 days of the week. Last 2 days of the week, gains it all back. Lots of interesting things happening out there. Did you happen to see the press release from MedMen?
I think the MedMen, I think the boys are taking a salary cut.
Do you think so? I think they already have taken one. But no, they actually, two of the original founders who felt that they hadn't quite raped and pillaged the shareholders of MedMen quite hard enough had a lawsuit pending against them. And today the founders who were suing the two other founders, Adam Bierman and his friend, they withdrew their suit. Yeah. So it's just one less headache for MedMen. What's MedMen stock doing these days?
Well, I'd like to tell you, except I don't know how to get my machine's not working.
Doctor, that's just inexcusable. I thought you were a PhD with
No, we're
THC.
we're having some issues here.
Oh, really?
Retry.
Like
I can't get into no quote stream.
No quote stream?
No.
What the hell's going on?
Well, we're trying to.
Okay.
And so.
Okay.
We got
just waiting for it to load up here. Come on, quote stream. Woo. Okay.
And yes.
You got it?
No. No, I don't think, I can't get, I don't think this is working.
All right, so let's go to
how about new batteries? How about new batteries?
And we're going to look at MMEN, CNX.
Oh, there, you got it up there now.
And yeah, okay, so a couple of green spikes and an otherwise red little tumble down the hill.
Look at this. No,
down to 283. Man, that's quite the tumble from. Well, let's see. It was back up here. It was at 442. But let's pull out to the 2-year look. Or actually, even the 1-year look is good enough. But remember, MedMen actually was up
$9.
$8.95. 902 was its all-time high back on Thursday, October the 18th. So in just over 6 months, the stock has gone to basically 1/3 of its value, and I'm not gonna harp on my favorite topic and say that super voting structures are never the friend of the shareholder, but super voting structures.
Well, that's what you said all along.
Oh, there you go. There you have it. Okay, let's look at another super voting structure now, just to see how this pattern is holding. Let's look at Acreage Farm, ACRG.U.CNX. And okay, so here's one where Oh, we can't zoom in there. This is Acreage Holdings, which has not performed as well as people would have thought and hoped who had paid $25 a share in the IPO round.
What's it at now?
It's at $18.15, up 18 cents on the day. But the problem here is that if Canopy has made this offer to buy, that cannot actually be consummated until cannabis is federally unprohibited, in other words, federally legalized in the United States. Is this kind of like people, everybody was expecting that that Acreage shares would start to trade closer to $32, $33, which is what the all-in value per share would be if the deal was consummated today. Maybe that was prior to Canopy's also had a rough week and lost $10 a share. So maybe, you know, again, but the super voting structure, again, has at this point not been of shareholders and friends. Let's look at another company that we've been following, Dionymed. Now, Dionymed was interesting because they have literally plunged into the ocean from a high that they IPO'd at, you know, what, 383 here. They touched a high.
Is that Dionymed?
That's Dionymed, yeah.
Looks a lot like the last one you just had up there.
Well, this is, you know, this is the thing. The idea of the shareholder-friendly structure has more bearing on how the stock is going to perform than evidently even CEOs understand. And as we have been advocates for since day one, the super voting structure is not a shareholder-friendly structure, and it acts as a negative catalyst, persistent as a overhang on the stock, because the persistent overhang is in the absence of understanding what the CEO might decide to do. And that's the big risk. Anyways, enough about me, enough about super voting structures. Let's go to the super sweet Latina news nurse, Suzanne Garcia.
And here's what's making news in the cannabis stock markets today. Khiron Life Sciences announced that the company has secured local regulatory approvals in Uruguay for the previously announced agreement for the acquisition of Neta Growth International, Inc. At the time the agreement closes, Neta Growth will own all of the outstanding shares of a Uruguayan company, Dormal S.A. Neta Growth, through Dormal, is a Latin American export-focused cannabis company based in Uruguay and is well positioned to serve Brazil and the growing Latin American market. Pax Labs Inc. announced that Afria, Aurora Cannabis, Organigram Holdings, and the Supreme Cannabis Company have signed on as a Pax Era brand partners. As brand partners, the licensed producers will offer high-quality products from their various brands in pods compatible with the Pax Era device. The Pax Era will be available in Canada later this year in accordance with the regulation of cannabis extracts, edible cannabis, and cannabis topicals. MedMen Enterprise announced that the City of Pasadena has awarded the company one of 6 commercial retail and delivery licenses. The licenses are subject to obtaining properly zoned real estate and a conditional use permit. With the addition of Pasadena, MedMen now has a total of 14 retail licenses in California and 13 operational stores across the state. Neptune Wellness Solutions has entered into a definitive agreement to provide extraction and purification services to Tilray. Neptune will receive cannabis and hemp biomass from Tilray and will provide extraction services to produce various extract formats, which include crude resin, winterized oil, and distillate extracts. Under the terms of the agreement, the minimum volume of biomass to be processed over the 3-year term is 125,000 kilograms, of which the first year is expected to represent 20% of total volumes. Agriflora Organics International announced the company has closed the acquisition of Organic Flower Investments Group, downstream and product formulation asset portfolio. This transaction reunites 70% of Agriflora's joint venture entity, Propagation Services Canada's 2.2 million square foot Delta greenhouse complex under a consolidated corporate umbrella. Agriflora will issue 1.15 common shares in the capital of Agriflora for each one issued and outstanding share of organic flour. And that's your news for today.
Catch that news, Ed?
Lots going on in the world.
Amazing.
I'm looking at my phone because I can't look on this.
Oh, poor. Yeah, so Neptune and the deal with Tilray. Interesting in that I would have thought Tilray would be in a position to extract all of its own extracts, having been in business for going on 6 years now. But don't you find it curious that all of the companies, when they went public, were all doing their own extractions?
They got it all figured out.
And now they're outsourcing all their extractions to extractors. So my question is, why are the extractors the only ones able to extract, and the LPs with extraction can't seem to extract enough extraction for their extract input requirements? Doctor, do you have an answer to that? Do you have an opinion?
You know, the only extract I know is vanilla extract.
That's it? I thought you were a big fan of the vapes, though.
No. Well, things change.
Things change.
Look, at the end of the day, you got extractors and guys that want to be extractors.
That's true. Have you ever tried dimethyltryptamine?
No, but I've been hearing about it.
Yeah, well, so I have a...
Is it trippy?
It is. And actually, you know what I found out is that it's actually not illegal in Canada.
What?
It's a Schedule 3 regulated substance. It's not a Class 1.
What does that mean, Schedule 3 regulated?
It means it's regulated by, like, Health Canada as a food and drug.
Health Canada?
Yeah.
Not the FDA?
Well, the FDA is in the United States. In the United States, DMT is listed as a Class 1 prohibited substance, meaning that there's no medical value. I'm going to do the exploration this weekend on the medical value proposition of DMT as it pertains to mental health, because I actually suspect that I am mentally unhealthy.
Well, when did you figure that? Because I think...
I've suspected it all along,
yeah.
Which is why I've been drinking and smoking so much. But I've also reached the conclusion that almost everybody in my immediate, secondary, tertiary, and far-flung universe is also mentally unhealthy.
Well, maybe that's because everybody is mentally unhealthy.
Doctor, I think you've hit the nail on the head.
That's why I'm here, and I'm a senior. I'm the senior on the job.
You're the senior physician in the house.
Yeah, thank you.
I know.
No, James, I wouldn't be too concerned. I think everybody's crazy.
I think we should rope together. We should round up all of the politicians and all of the military types. We should put them in a room, and then we should pound them with successive hot boxing of DMT, followed by a round of shatter and some dabs.
Can you take too much DMT?
Well, you know you can't take too much DMT. Do you know why? Because the hallucinogenic power of DMT is so intense that as soon as you're over a certain threshold, you can't actually smoke you can't ingest anymore because you're too fucking high. You're not swallowing, you're not inhaling, you're not drinking, you might be holding a pen in your hand, but that's not the reality you're seeing. You're in a completely different place.
Now, how do you know all this?
I know it through first-hand experience. Now,
First-hand?
First-hand. Not of consumption of DMT, but of first-hand consumption of other hallucinogenics. This weekend will be my first actual hit of DMT in a vaporized format.
When are you going to do it?
When am I going to do it? Probably Saturday night.
Well, we should do it on the show.
Do a hit of DMT on the show. You know, there are some viral videos out there of some guys smoking salvia, and then like filming themselves high on salvia.
Yeah.
Which
what's salvia?
Sylvia Tyson, you know, the country and western singer. Salvia is actually a grass that has some hallucinogenic characteristics.
Salvia.
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 Slavonia.
Slovakia. Oh, doctor.
Doctor. Doctor.
I can't read that, really.
Khiron's at 260.
Hey?
Khiron just went by.
Oh, you know who's here?
Who?
We know who we're going to talk to now? ¿Hablas español? ¿No?
Vicente Fox.
Señor Vicente Fox está en la casa. Entonces, aquí está él. Joining me now is former President of Mexico, Mr. Vicente Fox, joins me in studio. Mr. Fox, welcome.
Pleasure, Jim, and thank you for inviting me. Beautiful city, Toronto, unfortunate weather.
Yes, well.
A little bit wet and cold.
Story of our city, story of our summer. Senior Fox, you are now an active participant in the cannabis industry in Mexico. Mexico is driving towards cannabis legalization. What exactly is the status of the laws in Mexico pertaining to cannabis presently?
Okay, been an activist for 10 years now, so
Wow.
It's been a long way to get to where we are, this magnificent burning industry. What is the situation in Mexico? It's number one, medical use has been approved about a year ago, and it's legal. But unfortunately, we don't yet have the regulation to operate that law. We had a change of government in between. The new government is just taking hold of the situation, and it's a very liberal government. So has not only announced to try to move fast with regulation on medical use, but also to open recreational use, which will make Mexico, together with Canada, the two leading nations that have approved both uses and will go for the whole enchilada.
Okay, so how long do you think until regulations are in place so that patients can access medical cannabis?
Regulations, I think it should be no more than maybe 4, no longer than 8 weeks. And recreational use within the year. It will happen within the year.
Okay. Is there any concern that the medical, or rather the introduction of recreational rules, will catalyze a reaction from the cartels who currently control that business?
Well, what we have as experience behind would be Colombia, that did have the same situation, very similar to Mexico, and things went fluently. They are operating right now on the medical use, not yet the recreational. But cartels, I think that they have diversified their income so much that, yes, they will be losing some income out of the cannabis space, but yet they have other criminal activities. And on the other hand, I think that what has happened with the industry in other places, like Canada, like United States, those that participated in the old illegal industry at the very end joined in when it became legal. And now our businessmen, our salesmen, are owners of small stores. So that's the process. It happens that the new industry, the legal industry, dominates totally over the old criminal industry.
Interesting. You recently hosted a conference in Mexico, in your home state of Guanajuato, and it was called Canamex, appropriately. Tell me about that conference.
Well, that conference is sponsored and promoted by both of us. Khiron, this company in the space of cannabis, Colombian-Canadian company, which is the leading company in Latin America.
Khiron Life Sciences.
Khiron Life Sciences. And Centro Fox, which is the first presidential library outside of the United States. And we run it now for second time, 1,500 top executives from all around the world, scientists, academics, governments, so everybody participated. Our whole idea of Centro Fox, together with Khiron, is to promote the industry, to promote the benefits of the industry, especially the ones related to medical use, and it's permeating. It's really people is catching the whole idea that we have a nice, good, burning industry, that we have already taken away this beautiful plant from the criminals, from the cartels, and now put it in hands of the business community, corporate world, government, with taxes. And I think everybody's very motivated and enthusiastic about the future.
There are different things permitted for different indications in different countries. The cannabis space medically is very confusing worldwide. Specifically to Mexico, have they limited the use of medical cannabis to just a few human ailments, or have they basically broadly opened up?
It's, according to the law, it's broadly open up. And we're waiting for the regulation, but I don't think it will limit what already has been approved.
Sure.
So certainly would be for everybody. Khiron is already taking positions, looking for an acquisition of clinics, which we already did in Colombia. Elan is the name of this clinic chain that has over 100,000 patients. We're looking in Mexico for at least 1 million and up to 3 million, which already exist, which already are patients having to get attendance for pain in their heads, for different problems like Alzheimer, like else. And so once we have those chains of patients, then you start introducing the products. It's not going to be sold on the shelf. Really, Khiron is very professional in this, selling a package. So we make a diagnosis of the patient, then we determine what his needs are, then we give him a prescription, and then we go hand by hand to guide him to the future so that he can really cure his problems.
Interesting. Will Mexico permit exports? I mean, the reason I ask this is for companies like Khiron, Mexico potentially could be one of the lowest cost producers in the world. So if there's an export market, Khiron could very much profit by that. Is that on the menu?
That is correct, and you're right. It's not for sure right now that Mexico will allow trading, exports and imports. But Mexico's economy is the most open economy in the world. We trade with 42 different economies. We have trade agreements. The most important one of them is North America, the trade agreement with Canada, United States, and Mexico, which has the largest trade balance in the world, approaching $1 trillion US dollars a year. So $1 million every year we trade between the three economies. I think that this industry, same as today is the automobile industry or the pharma industry, will integrate to NAFTA and be part of this trading world. But we need to wait the United States to go open on national terms, on federal terms, because right now it's state by state. But if we have Canada and Mexico already open national, federal, then United States will join in, and certainly it would be a excellent industry, creating jobs, creating wealth, and creating trade.
Sure. So the population of Mexico now is about what?
We're about 125 million.
So that's a pretty massive market.
It is, and 80% of them middle classes with purchasing power.
Sure.
That's why we're excited. Certainly it will be, together with Brazil, the two largest markets in Latin America, by far. Wow. So is Khiron in a position now to take advantage immediately when the regulations come into place? Of course. We already done our job. We have offices and executives in Brazil, in Chile, in Uruguay, in Argentina, in Peru, in Colombia, of course, where we have a modern state-of-the-art production source, which is going to be the most competitive cost related processing and growing the plant. And yes, I think the cost of producing and growing in Latin America will be 30%, 40% of the cost in Canada or United States. So this is a very competitive advantage. Sure. Do you see a future where potentially Mexico, Colombia, companies like Khiron could actually dominate the global supply of cannabis as ingredients for medical products? No doubt, and that's about to happen. It's moving pretty fast because Khiron, with its very sophisticated strategy, with its trade name and its top executives running the company, has already raised $100 million US in the market, and it's investing very wisely, as I said, in producing in Colombia, in acquisitions, buying companies that are already in the marketplace, like this clinics and pharmacy places, to retail, and also we have all been already participating in the wellness industry with a product by the name of Cuida, which is a great name and is now being marketed in Colombia. We're ready to start in Mexico as soon as the regulation comes in. So yes, the company is taking positions, is investing in the marketplace, is preparing and being ready for the moment that is approved, then you move fast ahead and you dominate the space.
Sure. The rules in the rest of Latin America, are they more or less on pace with where Mexico and Colombia are at, or is it mixed like the United States?
As you know, we're in a new industry and everything is new. So you tend to take decisions by the day. And you have plans, but you adapt them to whatever is happening. Now, I guess with Canada now, as the leading nation in the world on the whole spectrum of cannabis, is showing and giving us the example of how to move now in other places. Israel is the leading country technology-wise. They really have advanced technology in the medical use and the recreational use. So everything is now getting experience. Everybody's getting more knowledge. And by the way, we have an agreement with Khiron and Centro Fox, which is the first presidential library outside of the United States, which is in the state of Guanajuato in Mexico, which is the library I lead. We're going to establish there a knowledge center, a research center with seminars, with a lot of information, a lot of training for the whole participants, not only consumers, not only patients, but mostly those who are going to attend those patients, doctors, hospitals, authorities. Authorities, governments need a lot of information. They are taking decisions without understanding the industry. So we have to have strong PR programs to approach governments, sit down with them, and discuss how this industry is going to be a very successful job creation industry, wealth creation industry, and enhancing economies throughout the world. It's a new world. It's a new sector of the economy, and I think it's going to be fantastic.
Okay. Well, that's great. I really appreciate your joining us today. Thank you very much for your input.
My pleasure, sir. Jim, we'll see you soon again.
Definitely. If you're enjoying the show, subscribe to Midas Letter on YouTube so you stay up to date on everything investment. Oh, hey, doctor, I've got something in my ear. Can you tell me what it is?
Wax.
What?
Wax.
What? No, it's West. I'm Dr. West. You're Dr. Wax.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, another interesting development. So Dionymed has, through a subsidiary, launched a lawsuit against Ease. Ease is the biggest delivery system in Los Angeles, greater Los Angeles area, and probably in California for cannabis products. And Dionymed is attacking them based on the fact that they are processing credit cards for cannabis transactions, which Dionymed is suggesting, in the case of Ease, is criminal. And if you know, this is not merely a this is not just a, they're not concerned for the welfare of the consumer. I suspect that what they're trying to do is to drive a stake through the heart of Ease, their biggest competitor, because Dionymed also does all of these fulfillment bits with credit cards and cannabis in California. This is the interesting thing, is Dionymed, publicly traded, symbol DYME. If we were to jump to the chart, what we would see is, oh, that's not it. Okay, so this is the press release that Dionymed put out under Herban Industries. They filed suit in the state of California Superior Court, County San Francisco, against Ease Technology. There's a little interstitial for you, in case you were wondering.
Yeah, if you didn't know what you're watching, now you know.
Now you know. Just in case, here it is again.
So what does, just blocking our simple terms, what does that mean? What's going on here?
Dionymed is trying to put its biggest competitor in the cannabis fulfillment industry in the state of California out of business through a lawsuit that seeks to block it from processing credit card companies, because, as according to the suit filed by Dionymed, Ease is directing, coordinating, and participating in a scheme to defraud credit companies and financial institutions into processing cannabis transactions in violation of a host of criminal laws, including prohibitions against wire fraud and bank fraud. Now, this is interesting, because as the companies that are having a hard time getting traction in the marketplace that they have targeted, for dominance. The money starts to dry up. The guys aren't having successful. So this strikes me. This smacks of desperation. And
on whose behalf? On the
Dianamed's behalf.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. It just doesn't really. It's certainly not. It's certainly not sportsmanlike, to say the least. But and I realize that business is not a sport. However, the best defense against competition is market share.
Yeah.
Not litigation. However, in the United States, that might be viewed differently, and certainly we're seeing that, as is the case with the Dianamed ease thing. So that's a news item that was not broadly discussed today, and I thought it was pretty relevant. That actually came out June 5th. So
you get the sense, though, that tempers, people are a little more prickly.
Prickly.
Like, you know, like a little more, there's a little less.
It's just because there's more pricks. More prickly people.
No, but, you know, when things are going up like a rocket, everybody's, everything's, but now things have changed a bit, haven't they?
They have.
Yeah.
There's less money. So the first signs of a reversal in the fortunes of the cannabis sector generally are upon us. Mind you, let us not forget that this is also the onset of summer, and for the last 3 years running, the onset of summer has coincided with a general malaise in cannabis stock action, and so nobody should be surprised.
A general malaise.
A general malaise. And in fact, summer is the time when it's least likely for a sector-wide catalyst to occur because everybody wants to enjoy the summer weather. Take us in Toronto, for example. We've got the Raptors. Is it game 3? Game 4 tonight? Tomorrow?
Game 4 tonight.
Game 4 tonight.
By the way, I happen to know quite a bit about what's going on. For instance, I know it's game 4.
Wow, doctor, is that part of your PhD dissertation?
Yeah, you know, I like to keep my finger in a few things.
Huh, that's impressive. That's very impressive. Do you know Beacon Securities? They've done a fair number of deals in the space.
Yes.
Doug Cooper was here to talk to us about what they're doing in the space, and here's that little conversation from earlier this week. I'm joined now by Doug Cooper. He's the head of research for Beacon Securities, a recognized and prolific investor in the cannabis space, among others. Doug, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Doug, Beacon, I keep seeing your name on press releases. You're putting a lot of money into the cannabis space. What is attracting Beacon Securities in cannabis now? Where is your focus?
Our focus, I think there's a four-pronged focus of what we're looking at and what attracts us. One, experience matters for management teams. I think that's really coming to the forefront. Having that experience is going to translate to operational expertise, which is going to show through in the numbers, right? Mm-hmm. Now, 2020 and 2019 is going to be all about the numbers. Who's actually, growing profitable revenue? Who's putting money in the bottom line? So that's one of the key things that we're looking for. Seeing that foreshadowing of who has that real ability to put those numbers down. Okay. Point number 2 would be, what is your geographic footprint like? I know a lot of people talk about MSOs, but in my view, all states are not created equal. Just imagine you had a regular consumer packaged product. What states would you want to be in? Those are the states that I think you want to focus on. Third would be the balance sheet. Balance sheets are incredibly important now. Who has that funded capacity in place? Do you need to go back and raise more money? These are the kind of questions we obviously like those companies that have strong balance sheets. And we get back to the first point, those that are companies that are generating free cash flow to fund internally their ability to grow. And the last is valuation. Valuation matters. It really puts the risk return in your favor. So those are the key probably themes that we're looking at right now.
Sure. And so for your clients, investors who are looking to deploy capital, is the bloom off the rose, as it were, for the idea of the early stage speculative play that's going to increase in value by 10 times from going public to trading? Are those days now in the rearview mirror?
You can't always discount the potential of maybe a brand guy in the U.S. coming out and in stealing a lot of thunder and doing really well. But we think the more speculative stuff is probably gone. You had a bunch of established players, and we get back to balance sheet and operational expertise.
Sure.
Are those younger companies fully funded? A lot of times they're not fully funded. So we think the more established players are going to be the ones we should look to.
Mm-hmm. And is the availability of capital still as boundless as it was in the last couple of years, or is there starting to be a more judicious deployment?
I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think people are more cautious about. They want to back winners at the end of the day. They don't want to back speculative nature. People want to back winners, and that proven management team will be able to track those investment dollars because they've done it before, and their operations now are starting to prove out that they can do it again.
Sure. To what extent do you see from your position in the universe, to what extent do you see the cost per unit of input affecting the success and viability of the business plans of even the well-funded, well-balanced sheet, well-managed companies? I mean, if you're a Canadian operator who's got, a baseline regulatory compliance load in terms of your cost per gram relative to, say, a Colombian company that's got, a lesser burden of compliance financially, do you think that the Colombians have an advantage then because they can produce cannabis at 10 cents a gram as opposed to 60 cents a gram in Canada?
So here's maybe where I'm a little bit diametrically opposed to people. I just don't believe that Canada, the U.S. will allow the importation of cannabis, period. Like we're seeing tariffs everywhere. The governments are going out in the limb to establish a regulatory industry and a real industry in their home countries. They want the tax dollars. At the end of the day, you start allowing foreign imports of cannabis, those the jobs are going to disappear, and you're not going to get the tax dollars that they think. So I don't think that's a major threat to the industry. Maybe for several years.
Sure. Deloitte came out with a report suggesting that edibles market is going to be worth billions of dollars within a few years. Do you see that unfolding?
I think that's a real possibility for sure.
Right. Okay. So what's company specifically are you interested in? What is Beacon really supporting?
I think for the getting back to those themes that we mentioned off the top, I think there's 4 companies that really fit those criteria for myself. One would be in Canada, and the other 3 would be in the United States. So the one in Canada quickly would be Village Farms. They own 50% joint venture called Pure Sun Farms here in Canada, Delta, BC. They have potentially the largest footprint in Canada at close to 5 million square feet. They are already proving that the 30-year industrial agriculture experience that the management brings is resulting in profitable operations.
Sure.
They did a 60% EBITDA margin in the first quarter. That's the best in Canada that we've seen. Again, so we think they're going to be vertically integrated. They're going to eventually brand their own products and sell directly to the provinces. And based on our EBITDA assumptions for 2021, when they have full utilization or full capacity utilization of what they call D2 and D3, the stock's trading about 5 times EBITDA. And then you get their whole CBD business in the U.S. for free, which they own 100% of. And they're in a multi-state operator for their CBD business. They're in North and South Carolina, Virginia, Colorado, and now Texas. They have 6 million square feet in Texas, which, as you know, just passed the House there to legalize hemp/CBD. The governor is going to sign off it in a couple of weeks, and that opens. We think they're incredibly well positioned, and investors aren't paying attention to this story at all.
Right. Well, that's intriguing.
The other ones are in the U.S., and one is topical. Planet 13 reported their May sales were up 8%, so I'll call it same-store sales growth of 8% versus April.
Right.
They are the largest retailer in the world. They're in a revenue run rate right now of 70 million. The numbers they talk are just unbelievable, really. They had 3,500 people come through the turnstiles in May. That's an annualized 1.3 million people going to their superstore. So this company has a 55% gross margin. Their last reported quarter, 11% EBITDA margin. We think it's only going to expand from there. They have a 10% market share in Nevada. We can think of no other company in a rec legal state that has that market share that they have. They have 20 million in cash and are generating free cash flow. So this, to me, is an ideal situation where companies are looking to expand their footprint. Las Vegas, in particular, is a great place to launch national brands.
And they've got that deal with Mike Tyson, too.
They got the deal with Mike Tyson. So we think this is a great opportunity, not only just on its own merits, but we think the strategic position of the company is ideal for somebody to come in and acquire them. And it trades about 6 times EBITDA by our estimates. The other one I want to mention is Canex Capital. They're at #1 position in Washington State. They have about a 30% operating margin in Washington. And this is, after 5 years head start, this gets back to our experience matters again, 5-year head start from everybody, because Washington State itself was early on the recreational legal side of the equation.
Right.
But a lot of people didn't care about Washington because it's kind of a more mature state. But the operational expertise that you need to generate those kind of margins in a hyper-competitive market translates to other markets. So they're merging with a company called Forefront, who brings licenses in a number of states, including Massachusetts, Illinois, in particular, and are moving into Arizona and then potentially Michigan and California. 5 states that we think are very attractive because they're rec legal and they're large. And if these guys can bring their grow and production expertise, the yields they can generate are quite attractive. And again, when Massachusetts and Illinois in particular get up to full ramp on the rec side, and we know that Illinois just got approved on the recreational side earlier this week, then we think its ramp, the stock's trading about 4 or 5 times EBITDA from that ramp perspective. And the last one is a company called Indus. Indus is California-based. Again, we think California is particularly attractive. If you think about the actual revenue, it's the #1 cannabis state in the world, and it's just getting started. $2.5 billion was the revenue last year. The revenue per capita there is about $75 a head, whereas somebody like Colorado is $250. So ultimately, we think this is going to be a $10 or $12 billion market. Indus is building a portfolio of brands. They have reach into 84% of the dispensaries there. They have the capacity in terms of extraction, all the production, the grow, where without a lot of money spent on infrastructure, they can generate well north of $200 million in revenue. And we think it's a twofold strategy. One is you're going to sell into the growing number of dispensaries in California. There's 600 today. It's probably going to 1,500 to 2,000, and also sell more product to each of those dispensaries. So we think they're incredibly well positioned. They have $30 million in cash. And great growth opportunities in front of them here. Those are our 4 that we're really focused on.
Well, those are 3 of the 4 I know and have been a guest on the show. Indus is going to be a guest on the show soon enough. So,
perfect.
So great to hear about those. Doug, we're going to leave it there for now, but we're definitely going to have you back because that was great insight. And thank you very much for joining us today.
Look forward to it.
You bet. If you like the show, you'll love our website. Visit us at www.midasletter.com for interviews with key CEOs, cannabis news, and to subscribe to our newsletter.
Doctor,
we're back.
Doctor, what's going on? Something's going on because
Extracts is halted PUMP at 12:34 Pacific time. That's just a little while ago.
Yeah.
The sharp eyes and quick reactions of Dr. Edward Milewski has notified us to this fact, and the reason why remains a mystery.
I was almost ready to go in and operate, and then I caught. It's a good thing I caught that because I put the operation on hold. No more operating.
Yeah. We got a bunch of cannabis companies that are starting to grow some outdoor weed this year in Canada. In Canada, we can grow
for the first time.
For the first time for these companies, yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, weed's been grown outdoors in Canada since essentially Christ was a child. Muhammad still had not been anointed the title of prophet, and dinosaurs roamed the earth.
Do you know that? Dinosaurs. Do you know they have there's somewhere in the States there's a museum where they have a dinosaur and there's a man riding it this is like not a cartoon but a depiction. In other words, man used to ride dinosaurs.
Oh, was he a doctor? Because I could see that as the way that you would have to make house calls if you were a doctor.
Yeah, well, back then.
Back then.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, we had...
And you know what the guy's name was that was driving that dinosaur?
Moses.
Fred Flintstone.
Fred Flintstone. I think I've seen that depiction.
Yeah.
You said it wasn't a cartoon. Fred Flintstone was a cartoon. I don't think he was a doctor either. What was his dinosaur's name?
Dino.
Yes, you're right. Dino the dinosaur.
I got it, didn't I? And what
you
about,
nailed it on the head. You're a doctor of animation.
Yes. What about his buddy's name?
What buddy? Barney Rubble?
Barney Rubble.
Big Trouble.
What's Barney Rubble's kid's name?
Bam Bam. And
what about his hot wife?
Betty.
Ooh. No, that's Fred's wife, Betty. What about Wilma?
Wilma was Fred's wife.
Oh, yeah.
Or did they swap?
I think they used to swap, yeah.
Did they? Well, that's a bit. I did what, and they were both cool with that. Did the kids know?
Well, it was, yeah.
What was Fred's daughter's name? Fruity Pebbles.
Fruity.
Well, Pebbles.
Pebbles.
Fruity.
Oh, yeah.
Fruity Pebbles.
Fred didn't have any kids, did he?
Fred had Pebbles. Pebbles was his daughter.
Well, who did Barney have?
Barney had Bam Bam. Bam Bam was Barney's kid. Pebbles was Fred and Wilma's daughter.
That's my nickname out on the...
And Dino was their dinosaur.
Bam Bam.
Now, here's a tough one for you. Do you remember the name of Fred's buddy who was from outer space?
Fred had a buddy from outer space.
Yep. They used to have the disintegrator.
Oh, Alien?
Kazoo.
Kazoo.
Right up the kazoo.
No kidding. No kitty.
Yeah, no kidding. This guy's website is majorly pumping VFF. Village Farms.
Yeah.
Village Farms. Yes,
it's moving today.
Well, there's a reason that we like Village Farms. I mean, besides being one of Doug Cooper's top picks at Beacon. So this is the thing. We have the analyst on, then I go look at his picks and I try to think to myself, is this guy a doctor or is this guy like not a doctor? Not doctor material. Anyways, Doug Cooper, definitely candidate for doctorate, I would say, because his choices were excellent, simply excellent. Village Farms is going to make morons out of the naysayers. They're not a client and I don't own any. They've never given us a dime.
Will they ever be a client?
I don't know. We've interviewed them once. I think we invited them to be a client. They would certainly be of the caliber to be a client. But, you know, they've got like 5 massive greenhouse operations all around North America. So this is not like we're going to build it and then we're going to learn how to grow weed. This is like we've already been growing cucumbers, peppers, and tomatoes for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Now we're going to just turn some of our attention to the marijuana space. Carol F. says, can we talk a little bit more about Indocan? I think she means Endocan. Okay, so this is confusing. Endocan. Endocan Pharma is our Endocan, doctor. Endocan. So like the endocannabinoid system is the system of our endocannabinoid receptors that we have inside our bodies, and so does every little vertebrate on the planet.
Okay.
Endocan Pharma is a nascent, meaning new, investment issuer. Nascent, doctor?
I would say, well, I think both are used, but
okay.
I think nascent.
I'm not here to argue.
Nascent's early, right?
I will use your version henceforth. Nascent. A nascent company that is an investment issuer that is agglomerating assets in a publicly traded vehicle that is going to essentially incubate them financially and developmentally and then spin them out into their own things down the road. This is the conceptual plan. Currently, the company's in the midst of a 10-cent seed round for the founders. Or not the founders, for its near and dear. Anyways, so what we've got so far in this company, a dronabinol program coming together, dronabinol being the only drug approved by the FDA with THC as an active ingredient. How did they get around the prohibition of THC in the United States? They demanded that the THC be derived from chemical synthesis. Which, yeah, the endocannabinoid system maybe doesn't like so much. So, Dr. Raphael Mechoulam, who, as we know, is the head, or maybe he's not the head, but he's certainly one of the principals behind the Cannabis Institute at the University of Jerusalem, opines in much of his research that there's an entourage effect. As he says, it is poorly understood what the exact nature of the relationship is, but we have to admit that there is an endocannabinoid. That's my poor imitation of the good doctor. He's probably going to hate me and never talk to me again. However, I take that chance just because I like to have fun. Anyway, so that's Endocan. It's a private company. It's not going to go public probably for 6-7 months. But I think that's what you were referring to, Carol F. Sue, I hope I helped you out there.
Endocan. Like endocrinology.
Like endocrinology.
A similar kind of...
Not at all, doctor.
Relation?
Completely, completely different. One might even say go so far as to say
what do you think about CanTrust sitting right around $7? That's down about $4 from the all-time high, isn't it?
There's a guy on the on Twitter who goes by the handle Ghost Trader, and he published a picture on his Twitter account.
You never see him, right?
You never see him. He published a picture on his Twitter account that was a picture of a recently delivered CanTrust vessel, and the marijuana was photographed very vividly, and it didn't look very good. And he was complaining in this tweet about CanTrust's quality of cannabis and how it's deteriorated. And I suspect that is at least in part what is behind the deteriorating share price performance of CanTrust over time.
So now, you think they should change the name from CanTrust to Can't Trust?
Can't Trust? Oh boy, we'll never get them for a client if I follow up with that one. Okay. But actually, no. You know, I think
that's not a judgment. I'm just playing with words. Playing with words.
We can't judge. We can't judge the companies who come and visit us here, because otherwise nobody will come and visit us. Nobody does want to come and visit it. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. If I could actually speak my mind about all of the companies and all in the cannabis space, it would be, I'd have fewer friends than I do, and being politically inclined.
You want to be somewhat politically correct.
I want to be politically correct. Carol F. says, thank you, James. Carol F., it was my pleasure. Any other questions? Any other topics any of you would like us to touch upon? You just put that right there in the chat on YouTube, and we will respond, assuming we catch it in time. Let's see, who else did we have in the house today? We have Mr. Clint Sharples was here. He's the CEO of Heritage Cannabis, and here's that little tidbit for you.
We're moving right along here.
We're moving right along. I'm joined now by Clint Sharples. He's the CEO of Heritage Cannabis Holdings Corp., trading on the CSC under the symbol CANN. Clint, welcome back.
Yeah, it's great to be back here.
Clint, it's been a while since we've seen you. Tell me, what is new with Heritage Cannabis?
Oh, we've been busy lately. Yeah. So, I think since the last time we spoke, maybe about 6 weeks ago, we've been active with signing up some partners, doing some formulation-based work, setting up some extraction business, looking to buy some biomass because we're going to need that for some of the future, and doing deals. Started our first deal down in the United States, picked up 30% of a company called Endocanna, technology DNA-based cannabis information service provider. Is probably the best route to go, is at helping people take control of their own cannabis-based health future.
Really? And how do they do that?
They have a DNA kit that's a swab, very similar to a 23andMe or Ancestry DNA. In fact, if you have information or the package from both of those, they can be uploaded into Endocanna's algorithm, and what it does is provide you with a report which matches your own personal genetics and given based on your DNA with which would be the best cannabinoids be the most effective for you and your body. Right now it's a crapshoot. You want to go out and you want to buy something to help you sleep or something with your anxiety issues. You go online and you choose a label, you choose, you buy and you hope.
Right.
What this does is allow you to buy, giving you information which you'll know these particular cannabinoids give you the best chance of success.
And so this is just the latest. You've also announced on May 30th you signed a term sheet with Cantab Therapeutics, who I happen to have. I've seen their prototype products and in somewhat of an exciting situation. What's that deal all about?
Yeah, we're excited about Cantab. We really like the idea of the way that they've set up the formulations that they have, their IP in the hard pills. Give consumers a really decent amount of optionality on how they want to take their, particularly the CBD or any cannabinoid for that matter, and how they want to ingest it. You want quick release, you want slow release. A lot of it depends on what you believe is the best way for you to administer your medicine in utilizing cannabis.
So you have you closed on some money recently as well. You raised 17 million, was it?
That's right, yeah.
And so that's given you the sort of financial firepower you can to make some of these moves. I noticed that you've exercised the option to purchase a growing facility, which is one of the seminal transactions of Heritage, the CannaCure facility in Fort Erie.
Yeah, not just growing. The facility is 122,000 square feet. 24,000 square feet of that is for grow.
Okay.
And that grow will be very specific strains for our formulations that we want to put to market. So it's we're not just talking about planting White Widow or Purple Kush or any of the general recreational based strains. This is designed to be very particular strains which have the various cannabinoids, which in our mostly on our medical side or quite possibly on the vape pen side, will show the best in the way of the formulated products. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's great.
That's the other 100,000 square feet is exactly what we're doing in it. Extraction and then edible based.
So Fort Erie is all about extractions and using it as an ingredient. Now you've also got growing operations in the West Coast.
We do that, yes. So out in Falkland in British Columbia, it's a smaller version. We have greenhouse grow. It'll be doing the exact same thing, growing specific strains for specific formulations, while our indoor space has been set up for extraction and all the downstream happenings that come out as a result of the oils. Mm-hmm. So you got tinctures, you have vape pen potentials, and eventually we'll be getting into the gel cap lines and anything else that will be utilizing our extracted products for final sale.
Sure. The cannabis industry generally is now sort of got a bit of a cap on it since Health Canada changed the rules, and now in order to apply for a license you have to come with a purpose-built facility and submit that as part of your application. Do you think that that's a good thing for the cannabis industry in Canada generally?
That's a lightning rod question. So I think Health Canada had to do this. They had way too many applications on people that they deemed weren't serious or were rolling the dice hoping to be able to get a license to get something to go and sell down the line. I think what you'll find is a lot of phase one builds happening out there, 3,000 square foot facilities with expansion plan for another 80,000 square feet after they get their license. Mm-hmm. So there will be a lot of scaled down original applications and with future plans to scale up. But as it sits right now, there's a lot of people who are still in the queue waiting for their license that have facilities that are done. And they're waiting for something to happen.
Right. So right now, Heritage has 2 cultivation licenses, an extraction license. You have a license to formulate edibles.
So we have 2 cultivation licenses, 2 processing licenses, and 2 medical sales licenses.
Wow.
And we're expecting in a reasonably short period of time, I'm hoping by the end of July, will be 2 full-blown sales licenses in both CannaCure and Voyage out in the West Coast. And yeah, we'll be ready to go right across the board.
Right. So how soon do you think until we see Heritage Cannabis products on the shelves at the various provincial cannabis vendors?
So that's our second phase approach. So we will have our own products out there. It'll be likely sometime in the fall. Right now we have some short-term requirements, some deals that we're working on that we need to be inventorying product for, and we are. And when we complete these projects we're working on, we believe it'll take largely most of the rest of the summer. Most of our capacity in our machines are going to be geared towards these pieces of business. Once we can take care of that, we'll look to go and complete our own products, give the 60-day notice to the provincial cannabis boards. Mm-hmm. We have CanEvolve, our brokers setting up. As soon as we give them the green light to go get some pre-sales for us.
CanEvolve.
Yeah, CanEvolve. They're an agency, a cannabis agency that goes around, deals with the provincial sales boards, rather than us having to hire a whole bunch of sales reps on our own. They represent our products, have done a great job for us, brought us a ton of opportunity that we're saying We're almost ready for you.
Right.
Just hold on. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So what is the plan for the rest of 2019 and going into 2020? Where are you focused?
So 2019 is all about setting up how we're going to grow. Everyone's seen what we've done to date. We've done a lot, and when you consider we acquired Canacure in November, raised a little bit of money from there. Since November till now, we've done an awful lot. In fact, we just had a strat planning session that we took a moment to take a look back on everything we've accomplished, and it's been a lot. And I'm proud of our team. We've really executed well. So over the next 6 months that we're going to see in this in 2019, landing the business that we're working on today, completing on some of the the early contract requirements, and they're not small. So it's going to take some effort and some focus. So that'll be a summertime project, but at the same time we have some international opportunities we're looking at. We've obviously got this Endo-Canada deal in the United States. As part of that, they've brought some opportunities in the U.S. that we are seriously looking at, that if we can and we can work on it and progress it, we'll want to get it signed by kind of early to mid-fall, and get working on it early in 2020. Could be significant revenue for us.
Okay, so we're coming to the end of the phase, the honeymoon phase for cannabis companies, where they were valued on future speculation, and increasingly investors are looking at the balance sheet and the earnings. And so what is the revenue and the earnings picture look like for Heritage going out 12, 24, 36 months at this point?
So first of all, I got to say it's about time. There's been a lot of valuations out there, some stupid numbers for companies that you look at and you think, there's no way that virtually any cannabis company could ramp up that quickly and that profitably to sustain that market cap. Good news for us, and my background is in operational execution, understanding where value is and how we create it. We are targeting to be, by the end of 2019, to be on an annualized run rate. Just make sure that the people who are looking at this know that that's not a 2019 total revenue number. It's an annualized run rate for the end of 2019 to be somewhere in the $35 to $50 million range. To be able to be building on that through 2020, revenues up, I'd like to see for calendar 2020 somewhere in the neighborhood of about $80 million. Given to what we know today, and then as we're building some of these international opportunities, they offer 1, 2, and 3 year growth plans after that are significant in their own right. If by 2021 we're not talking the hundreds of millions of dollars, I'd be surprised.
Amazing. Well, every time you come, Clint, the story just keeps getting better. Full disclosure, I am a shareholder, but we're going to leave it there for now. We'll come back to you again as soon as you have some more good news for us. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Yeah, Clint Sharples, ladies and gentlemen.
Dr. West.
$80 million in 2020. That's going to be something. I want the audience to bear in mind that our guests are projecting forward-looking statements and expectations, and you should by no means rely on those as predictions, and that's just the way it is. That's the way it is. Some things will never change. That's just the way it is. So, Ed.
What do you think?
I'm looking at the index here, Midas Letter Cannabis indices, and
right.
I've got a green day all across the screen.
The index, the reverse ETF is getting pounded.
Oh, well, that would explain the green day.
Yeah.
Or the green day would explain the pounding of the ETF. Pounding. Let's take a look at the large cap index page and see who's leading the charge.
Look at that thing.
We'll arrange it by, okay, Aphria. Aphria tacked on 5.19% today, up 48 cents, 9.73. This despite the fact that they're dealing with the class action lawsuit that Well, if one was to judge by the trading, it doesn't seem to be hurting them. However, a very... I better not go there. Never mind. Hexacorp added 2.39%, up 20 cents to $8.57 today, and Canopy Growth has regained 1.56 from an otherwise negative kind of week. Let's look at the 5-day on this chart here just to give that sense. So, see, we had the start of the week with real doom and gloom.
Yeah.
The index dropped below 10,000, and now it's taken it all back and then some.
I went to a Stockhouse event last night.
Not the Stockhouse Martini party.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to that once.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Didn't get asked back?
I was, well, no, it was
Too many martinis?
Exactly. Within 45 minutes, I was drunk, and it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
I hear you.
And that's not the way I like to start my evening.
No, you'd like to start a little earlier.
Well, I like to start with a glass of wine, then a beer, and then maybe a martini later.
I know, but
Actually,
you're pounding back heavy-duty martinis. Anyway, you know they gave an award for the best marijuana stock because the CSX was involved.
Who gave an award for the best marijuana stock?
Somebody at the Stockhouse event, because they're all the CSC people were there.
See, here's the thing about these awards, people. When it comes to giving an award for a cannabis company, you've got to ask yourself, who is giving the award, and what is their motivation to give an award?
Sure.
And then you have to look at the field of participants in the running for the award and ask yourself, were all these participants clients of the individual giving the award, and was it then, therefore, a given that only the award giver's clients were eligible to win the award? Look at the whole landscape of cannabis awards with that thought process in mind, and you will see a trend. It's actually beyond a trend, it's a pattern. And the pattern is that the givers of awards are typically using the giving of an award to draw clients to themselves and to reward clients who have been loyal customers.
In other words, there's a hidden agenda.
Exactly. We don't give out awards.
No, we don't.
And if we do give out an award, it doesn't matter if you're a client or not, it's going to be based on merit. And
right.
Here's the thing, when it comes to cannabis, there's so many categories of merit, and the opposite of merit, which we shall call, what, bad behavior, that nobody deserves an award.
How about demerit, opposite of merit?
A demerit. So like a class action lawsuit against Afria would constitute a demerit.
Yes.
Delivering a container full of crappy weed to a customer that has a Twitter account and following would be 1 demerit point for CanTrust. So we should actually start to do this, but then I suspect that none of the CEOs would want to join us again on our show.
Really?
Yeah, this is the thing I've noticed about the CEOs. If you criticize them or their companies, they don't want to come and talk to you anymore because they view you as the enemy.
Yeah.
And there are exceptions, mind you, and Cam Batley is an exception to that. Bruce Linton is an exception to that. They're able to take criticism and come and speak intelligently to it, rebut the criticism, in some cases admit that they've done something that was made perhaps not optimum, but that is relatively rare. Anyways, Dr. Ed.
Dr. Ed.
Dr. Ed.
Doctored.
Let's take a look at the CSE index, because we haven't looked at that today. It tacked on a mere 0.18%, which means we'll probably see a mixed bag. Let's look at the performers here. CLS Holdings USA added almost 20%, 8 cents to 48 cents. Ovation Science, I mean, look, there's so many of these new shares, I don't even know what they do. Planet 13 Holdings, well, we know what they do. They've got the superstore in Las Vegas that serves 2,500 customers per day.
That stock's flying.
Well, they're going to start to show some financials that it's really going to fly, I suspect. Now remember, Ed and I are market participants, and we're not to be trusted. Everything we say should be considered in the context of drama.
Should be dismissed.
Drama.
Instantly.
Did you know that what are the first 2 letters of drama?
Drama? The first 2 letters. Doctor.
See?
Dr. Rama.
Dr. Jimmy and Mr. Ed. Anyways, M. Hardeen suffering. Look at that, down to $1.30. Remember that thing was $4 just a few months ago.
Okay, M. Hardeen.
You got an inside scoop?
No, I just noticed it the other day. It looked like it was falling out of bed. Looks like that thing's not.
Yeah.
They raised their money. They did their job. They don't care.
They're gone. They're riding off into the sunset. Look at Valensgrow up at $3.95. So remember, we had, was it Mackey Research Capital called them out at $2 and said they were going to $4.20 or something? Looks like they are not too far from correct. Look at that.
Wow.
Look at that. Let's see, what else we got in here? Let's take a look. Let's take a walk down memory lane here, see who we recognize. CanX Capital, still in the midst of a combination with Forefront Holdings. We'll have them back on the show. That was one of Doug Cooper's top picks from Beacon.
Right.
Obviously doing very well. $1.57. Remember, he could have bought that stock for 80 cents back in December. See? Valuable information.
It's so much simpler if you just look behind you and say, okay, this is what happened, so I should have bought it here and I should have done that,
Sounds like you're being a bit facetious there, Edward.
Well, it's a lot tougher than it looks.
All right.
I'll say that.
Former co-host Dr. Ed Milewski. Liberty Health Sciences, sucking hind tit here at 66 cents, but put on 4.76 cents. Liberty Health seems to have become a bit rudderless since it parted company with George Scorsis. And let's take a quick look at that chart. Yeah, look at that.
So they have parted company?
Yeah, George has left the company.
Why?
I couldn't tell you why. I don't know why.
And that's the company that was involved with Afria, correct?
Liberty Health Sciences began life as a affiliate of Afria, and Afria had shares in it. The whole Afria Liberty Health Sciences Sol Global Investments story, if it could be told in its entirety, would make an excellent freaking movie. And maybe that's the movie we'll make next, if everything works out in such a way that we can tell that story without getting ourselves into deep caca-doo-doo. But I'm sure there's lots of people who hope that we never do that.
You say cock-a-doodoo?
Cock-a-doodoo.
Is that like cock-a-doodle-doo?
Cock-a-doodle-doo. Time to get your ass out of bed, Ed. Doctors get up early, don't they?
Wakey, wakey. Hands off sneaky.
Eggs and bakey. Do doctors get up early, or do doctors get up late?
Doctors never go to sleep.
Doctors don't sleep?
That's why they look like they get up early, because they're always awake.
Wow.
Yeah, they don't sleep.
We'll have to get more medical equipment in here. Do you think if we have enough medical gear in here that we'll be qualified to give medical advice?
And medical procedures.
And medical procedures. Ooh, watch out.
Would you mind stepping into my office for a medical procedure?
I'd like to see you in the observatory. That's just disgusting. Okay, you know what? There's what else we got going on here? I can't even remember what the hell's going on now. Oh! Keith Merker, Weed MD. Do you know they're going to start growing 27 acres of outdoor?
27 acres?
27 acres. 27,000 plants. Well, they say 20,000 in the press release. 27,000. They're projecting a kilogram per plant. And they think they're going to sell it for $3 a gram. Total gross, $80 million. Putting themselves on the line there. Putting themselves on the line. Going out on a limb, as it were, to come up with such big numbers. We're going to go and shoot the plantings.
Did you see where there's 6 years of inventory already in Idaho?
6 years of inventory of cannabis or potatoes?
Potatoes.
Potatoes.
I don't know. Cannabis. 6 years. Yeah.
Why would they be saving up so much cannabis?
Well, they're going to start slowing her down here because they figure this stuff won't keep.
They think there's going to be a shortage.
Well, I don't know.
No, nobody knows. Here's Keith Merker. I'm joined now by Keith Merker. He's the CEO of Weed MD Inc., trading on the TSX Venture under the symbol WMD. Keith, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Keith, you recently announced a new program in partnership with Lyft called Color. And it was interesting to me. It really got my attention right away because it was spelt C-O-L-O-R, which is counterintuitive for a Canadian company, but there was some logic and some thought put into that. Give me an overview of what drove that process and what exactly is Color.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. And we're terribly excited in the WeedMD camp to roll out what is really our first brand beyond that of WeedMD, which is where we started and where we still are. But it's so exciting to have something new to represent.
This is a whole new brand.
This is a brand new brand.
Oh, wow.
And how we will be representing ourselves in the adult use market here in Canada and hopefully beyond at some point in time.
Color. So why the name, why the spelling of the U.S. one? What made you pick that?
So we have a very, very great marketing team at WeedMD. We've got our SVP of marketing is a guy named Brett Moon who came over from a company called Mosaic Sales Solutions where he ran actually their cannabis practice for a number of years and had a lot of great insight into what our peers in the space were doing, what they were thinking, how they were going about the exercise of creating brands. And you know as well as I, there's been a whole bunch of new brands that have come to market over the past 12 months as people try and sort of get ahead of this game and stake their claim. we wanted to think about things differently. We wanted to think about cannabis differently, because cannabis is something that defies any traditional sort of pigeonholing, as you know, as a product. Is it medicine? Is it recreation? Is it wellness? Is it nutraceutical? What is this thing?
Yes to all of the above. And the answer
is yes to all the above.
Exactly.
So we didn't want to, as a company coming out with a brand, dictate to you, this is what our brand is, and this is what it stands for, and this is what it should be, this is the occasion of use, and all the rest of that kind of stuff. We wanted to create something that was a little more all-encompassing, something that would be up to the individual to decide what this is. And so we hired an amazing group of people at an organization called Sidley. As a side note, Sidley is the same group that came up with a campaign that you've probably heard of called We the North, which one might argue has contributed immensely to the success we've had here with our homegrown Toronto basketball team.
Right.
So, same group of people working on this color brand. And the MO behind it really is that the world has changed to a place where it ain't your mom and your dad's world. It ain't the world of the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. It's not a world that used to be seen a little bit more black and white. It's a world where the lines are being blurred. It's a world where we want to see things in color. It's a world where the old truths need not apply. And so
we don't need to pay attention to trivial little details like spelling color with an extra U, because it really doesn't make any sense at the end of the day. I've realized that.
It's not meant to be necessarily, you know, when I first looked at it, I thought it was a spelling mistake.
Right.
But when you look at the word in and of itself, there's a nice symmetry to the 5 letters, number one.
Is.
We wanted to stand apart from the Canadian spelling of the traditional word color, but yet reference what color meant to this brand and what it stood for. And so that was sort of the thought process behind it. The packaging looks incredible as packaging can look in the Canadian marketplace.
Right.
And I think that the folks behind this endeavor have done a tremendous job, and we're terribly excited to roll out the color brand across Canada.
Well, I can't wait to see it and try it, more importantly.
Absolutely.
I want to just touch on that aspect for a moment, because it's interesting to me, and the limitations on variation in color that you can put on labeling if you're going to sell cannabis in Canada as a licensed producer is roundly criticized, and most marketers are horrified by this idea that we can't really brand cannabis, differentiate it in a visual way without running afoul of these advertising rules. From your experience with those rules, do you get the sense that that is always going to be the case, or at least for the foreseeable future? Are they going to ease up on those and sort of make them more aligned with like alcohol advertising rules, which doesn't have such restrictions?
The only thing I can say for certain is that there will be no certainty.
That is certainly certain.
Yeah. No, change is the only constant here in this crazy market, in this crazy industry. Whether things go to a position where the door opens more and allows us to be more freedom in the way that we market and brand things, or whether it shuts further, like we're seeing, for instance, in the tobacco world, I really can't answer to. But I do believe, fundamentally speaking, from the 30,000-foot stand, or viewpoint, that the regulators have taken a stance that they would leave the door shut to begin with, and it was always easier to open it up over time versus taking the other route and allowing a free-for-all and then deciding where they would crack down.
Right.
And so I do believe overall that we'll see an opening up of opportunity when it comes to the regulatory regime, whether that transcends itself into the actual specifics around individual packages. I can't say at this point, but certainly do hope so.
Does that represent a challenge for you in projecting a brand like color, which has so many connotations about color, where you're restricted to red, black, and yellow?
We're not necessarily restricted to red, black, and yellow.
No?
So you will see more coming out than red, black, and yellow. Now, remember, the yellow is the warning label.
Right.
Or sorry, the health warning, and the red is the warning label for cannabis. And so there are other colors available to us. It's just restrictive as to how we use them.
Right. And do you find that a challenge that you have to overcome?
Everything's a challenge.
That's a good point. All right, Keith.
Everything worth doing is a challenge.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so how soon till we see color on the shelves?
So we're rolling it out in early June, and so currently, actually, product is leaving our facilities and heading off to the provincial agencies and distributors, and we should be on the shelves sometime later this month.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to keep my eyes peeled and order some.
Please do.
All right, Keith, that's a great update as usual. Let's leave it there. We'll come back to you soon. Thanks for joining me again.
Thanks for having me.
If you're enjoying the show, subscribe to Midas Letter on YouTube so you stay up to date on everything investment. All right, so Keith Merker and Color is the new brand. That's going to be interesting.
Color.
How
do you spell it?
C-O-L-R. O-R. Anyways, never mind that. You know that gold, the price of gold, Ed, is up $60. And gold is a reflection of financial stability globally and the health of the financial system generally. Certainly Donald Trump's initiation of trade wars on multiple fronts is an indication of a destabilization factor, as evidenced by the increase in the price of gold. Now, the best way to play gold is by investing in juniors, some might argue. And here joining us now is David Anderson, the CEO of Avidian Gold, to tell us about his projects.
I'm going to pay attention here.
I'm joined now by David Anderson. He's the CEO of Avidian Gold Corp, trading on the TSX Venture under the symbol AVG. David, welcome.
Nice to be here, James.
David, tell me about Avidian. What's it doing? Where is it doing it?
Avidian is a company that's been around for quite a few years, and we practice a philosophy of buy low and sell high, as in the gold market. So when nobody wants gold properties, we acquire them. And our criteria is we like district-style plays. In elephant country, and once we have amassed a property position, we'll take them public. In this case, we're active in Nevada and Alaska. Nevada, it's in the Humboldt trend, which probably has produced Nevada itself over 200 million ounces over the years, and the Tintina trend up in Alaska, which is to date, I believe, in the 125 million ounce range. So we're definitely an elephant country, and our philosophy is it takes as much work to find a big deposit as it does a small deposit, so we're going to go for the elephants. The company is biggest project, or highest priority project, is a property called the Golden Zone up in Alaska. We have a resource of roughly 300,000 ounces on the project. We're in the process of exploring the peripheral area around that, and in the 2018 program highlighted some new areas in the immediate area of the Breccia pipe deposit that we can see that resources will increase as we go forward. So we're very optimistic that we can increase that resource to 300,000 ounces. The property itself has a strike length of about 15 kilometers, and in the company right now, there are 5 target areas identified that we would consider having the ability to deliver a multi-million ounce deposit. Now, that's not the only targets, but those are the ones that we've highlighted. We've been working on the Golden Zone Breccia pipe because of the resource, and realizing that we can add the greatest amount of value there for the lowest dollar amount in the short term. And we'll continue to focus on that area. But there's 3 other projects in Alaska, one called the Copper King, which is immediately south of the Golden Zone, the Breccia pipe, and then one called the JJ, which is slightly west, about 5 kilometers to the west. So it's the resource that we have is on an existing mining lease, good to 2050. And we have started forward with the concept of doing some baseline studies to get things organized for when we do decide to go forward. Now, the 4th project that we have in Alaska is one called Amanita, and it adjoins the Fort Knox gold mine. So, and Fort Knox, as you know, is a prolific producer, I think 380,000 ounces a year.
Tell me about some of your more prolific drill intercepts that can give us a nice sense of grade.
Well, the 300,000 ounces is at a grade of about 2 grams at this point. We have intercepts that run quite high. Last year, we drilled 149 meters of plus 3 gram material.
Oh wow!
Now that was down the axis of the pipe. I don't remember. I'd have to look up to give you the exact quote. But needless to say, it was great. But what we've learned is in the Breccia pipe deposit. It was clipped off at the base of the deposit. It sits on the side of the hill, so the ability to extract the mineralization will be easy. It's very favorable from a mining perspective. But last year in 2018, we found what we believe is the faulted extension of it. And it was about 400 meters to the north of where the existing deposit is. And the gold there is actually hosted in a different environment, but we believe that the source of the two is one and the same and lies between the two of them there. The Copper King deposit, which is a porphyry-style deposit to the south, we probably won't do a lot in the short term because it is an expensive deposit to explore. But last year we drilled, I think, 9 meters of 8 grams of gold and 3% copper, along with 50 or 60 grams per ton silver.
What makes it expensive?
Just the size of the deposit. The footprint itself is probably in excess of 1.5 kilometers and we've got gold and copper in the entire peripheral area of that. In
a porphyry setting.
Yeah, well, it's kind of some kind of a, I'm not sure it's these induced or the IRGS style intrusive systems in a porphyry mix. So it's a little bit more complicated geology, but it appears like a porphyry in some aspects of it is right. So the reality is, if you compare that, it's something that we'd love to drill, but it takes a lot of money to drill. The market's not kind these days to junior explorers. So we turn around and look at a project like the JJ zone. And it's a deposit that is, not a deposit, but an occurrence that we discovered late last year that has about a 500-meter strike length, a 300-meter vertical that we can observe. We understand and can see that it goes quite a bit further deep. 150 meters wide, and it's a series of intrusives into sediments that's sitting at surface. The intrusives are mineralized up to 6 grams per we were running in the sampling we were doing. And the sediments between the intrusives appear to be mineralized as well. We were seeing anywhere up to upwards of 1 gram, but typically a 0.5 gram in the sediments, which means if you're taking out the intrusives, you're taking out the sediments, you're getting credits for mining the whole beast. Now that is sitting out in the open, easy to drill. And even if with those dimensions, if we were to get something around the order of 1.5 grams universally across it, open pittable, you know, you'd be 1 million+ ounces. So if I was to decide where to drill, James, I would be more inclined to go to the JJ zone than the porphyry, where I know I'm going to have to dig into my pockets and work for a little while to unravel that.
Sure. Well, that's it's an intriguing opportunity by the sounds of it. Yeah. What's the market cap of the company right now?
The market cap of the company is probably on the order of about 8 million, 7 to 8 million. Really undervalued.
Yeah,
of course, everybody will say that as a CEO.
Well, you know, it's interesting to me that, you know, what is this, the 6th year? No, this is probably almost the 8th year of the real downturn in metals and markets and junior mining in particular. And, you know, it strikes me as odd that people are not collectively thinking, okay, well, this has got to turn around at some point. I mean, even in 2012, we thought this was going to last for a while, but it's got to turn around. And at these prices, I think that, you know, personally, I am buying juniors and loading up on positions with this, that, and the other thing, because one day it'll turn and
100%. And to be, you know, I've been involved in the building and selling of 2 of these companies historically. And interesting enough, from the time they went public to the time they were sold, it takes about 6 years. You know, so QGX, we started and took it public in 2002, sold it in 2008. Antares Minerals, we started in 2004, sold it in 2010. You look at production on the major side, and you can see a couple of things that come into play, and this is why I'm figuring that timing is very good, even if the market's not there yet, it is coming. Is the production is falling. The rate of discovery is falling off. We're not finding the 10, 15 million ounce deposits of area. It's getting harder. You know, the reserves are not being replaced. If you look into about 2022, that range, you're going to see supply-demand come into play in gold, where they're not going to be able to, you know, they're going to be short gold in the production side. And then you have, in general, a decreasing confidence in fiat currency. So I think we'll have a couple of things work in our favor. So My thinking is if we took this company, Avidian, public in 2017, by about 2023 we should be well positioned. And yes, you know, I'm an optimist, I'm a gold bug, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But I've been here before, done it before, and I'm very comfortable with the environment, so, you know, bullish.
Yeah, great. Okay, David, let's leave it there for now. We'll come back to you on the next drill program and see how you're making out. Thank you very much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Nice to meet you, James.
Let's talk about Aurora. Recently, your financials, you more or less delivered on.
Here are the headlines moving markets today.
If you're lucky to buy it 3 days ago at 37 cents,
and I think it has a lot to do with some of these smaller names giving really.
Recreational cannabis is here.
It's quite dry. So I'm going to eliminate the stocky bits.
Yeah. There you go, gold. Taking a last look at this chart. Here's the chart for gold again.
A lot of the juniors haven't moved, but look at gold.
Look at that action there, eh?
Yeah, what time frame is that?
That's 2 hours.
Wow.
No, it's 1 year.
Flying. Yeah, it's getting right near the high.
Yeah, let's see how that compares to the 3-year look. Oh, it's getting back up there, but it needs to go up higher. Anyways, there's our show for the week, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in. Don't forget to like us or hate us. We don't care, really. But goodbye and have a great weekend.
Bye from the doctors.
Bye, doctor.
Bye, doctor. Bye.